Hello, welcome to this session. I will talk today about why you don't have to automate everything in your growth hacking, because I know a good way to grow hack is to automate everything with script or software. But this time I will try to show you that human is very efficient sometimes, and you have to think about what to automate and what to put human on it. So a quick review about who I am. My name is Frédéric Canoët. I'm French blogger and product manager. It's something like 20 years that I'm working in marketing. I worked in the early 20,000, working in startups and so on. And since something like 10 years, I'm blogger. I've one of the top 10 marketing blog in France. The name is ConseilsMarketing.fr, which is marketingadvice.com if you don't speak French. I'm a great fan of growth hacking since many years. What I called before it was maximum efficiency, efficacité maximale, because before growth hacking was invented, I really thought about having a maximum impact, using software, automate, be clever, and learn how to break the rule and think different. So when I discovered the growth hacking a few years ago, I say, wow, that's exactly what I do. So I really began to be a great fan, but I'm not a techie guy. I don't like coding. I do very few scripting. So that's why in this session I will emphasize on human side. I also be of course using software, but I try to use human, and sometimes it's very more efficient and productive to use human than to use software. On the growth hacking side, I also written a French book about growth hacking, which is called the growth hacking 8 weeks to double the number for your leads, which is a book about the growth hacking method that I wrote last year, end of last year. If you want, you can go in Amazon and you'll be able to see what's going on exactly. So the first question to ask yourself is when not to automate everything. That's a good question, because lots of people say, okay, growth hacking, it's mainly using software to automate things. I would say no. It's good to automate when you don't need human touch, because it's just adding people. For instance, I used to use, for example, Trackit to mass follow accounts of my competitors on Twitter, or to make a welcome message in Twitter. That's very interesting thing. When there is no relationship, for instance, to use a Jarvis to add subscribers to your channel in YouTube, or for example, when it's very or can answer or can text, like LinkedIn Helper, for example, to invite people. You just have to add their name on a very incentive message. And okay, it works fine. So that's okay when you have something very short to do, when there is no real relationship, when you don't need really human touch. So for this thing, I really use this kind of software. I prefer to use software than to code everything on myself, because I think there is a software for everything you need mostly, and they are more efficient, and for few euros per month you have a very good software. So I really like automate, but I say no, you don't need to automate in sometimes. Sometimes it's too complex and too long to code or to use the software, or it's too tricky. Sometimes it's too tricky because there is some patterns, there is some blockers and so on, or for sometimes it's very expensive to code something and to maintain this code, or it's a just one-time thing and you don't need to do it again. Sometimes it's better to say, okay, to somebody, do it for me, it's very simple, just do that, and not code everything on by hand. I also recommend you to use human when you need expertise on relationship. It's very important when you have relationship. For instance, I'm working in B2B business. On my market, there is something like 3,000 or something like that people that will be interested by my services. So it's very few people, and if you make something too much automated, too pushy, not human, you grieve yourself, you are burned, and you can't do a business with the people who say, oh, you're the spammer, you send me with several emails. So you have to be very careful about that. So for this kind of relationship, I mostly recommend you to use human. And of course, as I said before, don't be seen as a spammer. The problem of code, the problem of software, is that sometimes it's very, when it's bad made, it's very obvious that you're making a spam, or you have the spam machine. So when you do it by human, it's more efficient. So my second slide will be how to use human without spending too much, because that's one of the main reasons why people don't use human and prefer to use software in growth hacking, because they say, oh, using human is too much expensive. You can't do it by human because it costs too much. The answer is no, it's not expensive, because if you think about European people or US people, of course, the cost of the salary is very expensive. But when you take the offshore marketplace, you can recruit some virtual assistant and people to do the job for very few money. For example, for me the price is something like 2.5 to 5 euro per hour of work. So that's a fair price. I would say a warning, because I didn't wrote here, but it's very important. They are they are slow. For example, for tasks that would take me something like 2 minutes, for a virtual assistant it would take something like 3 minutes or something like that. It's very important to see that and to be aware of that, because when some people say it's very cheap in for the salary, they don't take into account that some people are not very techy, they don't know your business, they are working for several person. So be aware of that. Something that you do in 3 minutes, they would take more time. So be aware of that. It's very important. So what to do? It's very simple. You go on Fiverr.com, for instance, and okay, you will have to find a virtual assistant. So for instance, I would say virtual assistant. Okay, virtual assistant. Just call on that, and here you have some virtual assistant. Here, for instance, it's English. I prefer, of course, French virtual assistant. So here, first guy, virtual assistant, Word editing, copy paste of kind of documents, of something like that. 3 hours of work for 4 euros or something like that. So 4 hours of work for 5 euros or something like that is very, very cheap. And he has a good notes. It's very important to have good rates, because lots of people are not working very fine. So you just have to find the good virtual assistant to work with. What I recommend you is to find at the beginning 5 virtual assistant. Try to give them few tasks, and among these 5 people you will see that something like 3 are very bad, they make really bad things, 2 would be quite great, and 1 will be really interesting among the 2. So always try or at least 5 assistants and take the best, and do not hesitate to pay a little bit more to have a good assistant. You can do the same, for example, to Upwork.com or freelancer.com or something like that. You have lots of people who are okay for you to work for you. Here, virtual assistant that could help you in several languages. Mostly it's in English, but you can also find some French people here. It's very interesting to find them. The hour rate is a little bit higher, but some people here are really better than the others. So to continue. So you can find your virtual assistant in offshore marketplace for this pricing. The result right now is that I'm still using some virtual assistant. I use something like 1 or 2 virtual assistant per month. The cost is something like 500 euros per month that I spend for virtual assistant. Sometimes 1,000. It depends on the work I've got to give them. And I'm working with a system of timesheet to track jobs on things done. It's very important to have some kind of timesheet to be sure that the people that are working on the good things are not wasting time for something. When you say, okay, you should take something like 2 hours or 3 hours for this job, you have to track that everything is fine and the assistant is not making the wrong thing. It's very important to do that because if you don't do that, the time for the job you will kill them will be very more important than you plan. So what I recommend you every time is to make the job once by yourself and you see how much time it takes and then you record this task you want the virtual assistant to do, and then you give them the video for something like this web seminar I have just done for you, and then you send the video, and the virtual assistant will have all the instruction written on the instruction on video, and this time it's very efficient. So I will take my first example. The first example is a human chatbot. It's very simple. As I said before, I've got a blog, ConseilsMarketing.fr, which is one of the top 10 marketing blogs in France. So it's very interesting because I've got lots of visitors, but as in most cases, and if you have a blog, you know what I'm saying, very few people are making comments, very few people are asking questions, very few people are using the search engine, very few people ask you for inquiries, questions, services, and so on, so on, so on. So I wanted to have a lot more relationship with my visitors, be different from all my competitors that have just a blog, just a search engine, and they just let people go when they don't find a solution. So I want to be very different and add a chat and give advice to my to my visitors, because I've got a blog. We have 10 years of 10 years of blog posts, and there's a lot of solution already on my blog. But people are very lazy. They don't go in the search engine. They don't wait time to find the solution on the blog. So I know I've got the solution on the blog. I know I've had a lot of visitors, but they don't talk to me, they visit very few pages, and so on, so on, so on. So I know that the solution was to have a chat and give them some solution. First, I thought about a chatbot, but the problem is that the chatbot don't answer very well every time. A chatbot is really made for answering one question very well and to be special and dedicated to one task. So, second solution would be to have a chat on my website and discuss directly to the people. So that's what I did for another website which has few hundred people every day and which is made only for leads generation. But for a website like myself, with lots of inquiry, with some people will be never some customer, for example students, for example foreign people, and so on, so on, so on. It's not interesting for me to have a live chat. I thought secondly to have an offline chat, which is the case right now, which means that they don't discuss with me directly. It's a proactive chat which launching on talking people, how can I help you, and they just leave their emails and name and their question, and it's sent by email to me. So that was a good solution. I used to use it, but it takes a lot of time. Every time I've got something like 50 or 60 chat every day. So at the beginning it took me something like 1 hour per day to answer to all this chat. So it was very time consuming, so I have to close it. But I thought myself, how can I solve this problem? I know people want to have a chat. I know that I have to put the chat to engage, to have a more relationship on different sides from my competitors. But I can't spend 1 hour or 1 hour and a half. And I saw myself, but it's sometimes exactly the same question. It's always the same question. So what did I do? I said, okay, I will take my virtual assistant to do that. At the beginning, my virtual assistant was mainly working for me like a transcription guy, transcription my video or transcript my podcast or something like that. So what I did, I put live the chat during 2 days. It was offline chat. Of course, I was not discussing live, but I received some email with the question some people asked me during 2 days, and I was answering to all their questions and put them in a Google Docs. Which these documents. So it's a document which is something like 100 pages now, and I said, okay, when people say people want infos about affiliation, here is the information. People say, want question about how to launch a blog or website. Here is the solution. People want to have information about a local website. Okay, that's the answer. People want to have information about my training things. Here is the answer. When people want to have a code, just call me. So what I did. So it was very clear. I had all the main answer. I would say what 80% or 60% of the answer during 2 days. I put them in a Google Docs. Make some instruction to my virtual assistant. At the beginning of the document, it was can answer what you have to do when you answer to the emails. You have to say to check if the customer has an email, check on the Google Doc. If the people ask for a classical question, just copy paste. If there is a special question, use our search engine on the blog to find if there is an article, a blog post about that. If the customer asks for code and information or partnership, just call me and send me an email. If the asking is too complex, which will be the case at the beginning of the job, just send me an email with the chat that you can't answer with the typical answers, or with the search engine of blog, and say, okay, it's a chat that you can't answer. And then I put them, okay, here is the answer for just people asking for hi, how are you? Just say okay, or just say this thing, this thing, this thing. So everything was written, and of course, when I receive some emails from my virtual assistant that say I can't answer to this question, I can't answer to this question, it's too complex. So what I did is I added every time my answer, my own answer, on the Google Docs. On time to time there is more and more answer, and she is able to answer more and more and more questions. So it's better than just a chatbot. It's better than just answering live, because you don't have to answer live. And what was one of the backdraw I thought at the beginning about having a virtual assistant answering live, because when you're answering live to a people, they would like to answer lots of things, new things, and say, no, it's not good, it's not my right answer, I would like to know that. With my system, the people just use the chat on my website here. They just then give their name, they give their email here, email, name, question, and they send it to me. I receive an email with all this information. Here it is, an example of a chat that my virtual assistant can't answer, chat that I can't answer, and here's the chat. There is the email of the guy, there is his name, there is the web pages he search on the chat on the website, which allow me to know what he really wants. I've got the IP address on the town, which allow me to know if it's a French customer or it's a big company, and so on, so on. And he say, okay, as I would like to, he said this time, I bought your book about growth hacking. I would like to discuss with you about growth hacking. I've got a conference, construction trade show in October. I would like to talk to you about your book. So that's a kind of answer that my virtual assistant can't answer, but it's very interesting for me to talk about that. So as you see, it's very interesting because the virtual assistant can add value, can tailor the answer, can answer by the name of the people. They can search on the website to answer a new question. If they don't know what to answer, or it's too complex, they send me the email. So no bot, no chatbot, no program, no script can be as useful as this. So the cost is not much. It's something like 300 euros per month, something like that. I think that 99%, 95% of the chat is made by my virtual assistant, and of course there's always 5% or maximum of 10% of the chat that I have to answer manually. But it's not that bad because most of the time it's a partnership, it's people who want to buy trainings and so on and so on. So it's important for me to answer to this question. There is a lot of thank you, more page per visitor, more subscribers. So for the cost of this, it's very, very interesting. And of course, I did the same for the form that I make for every new customer to my emailing. So it's very simple. When you go to my website, when here you subscribe to one of my ebook here, you have just after that a short form, which is I'll show you right now. Here you have got a short form with a video where I ask by video, thank you to answer this few questions. What are your main problems? How can I help you? What is your email? And now my virtual assistant also reply to this question thanks to the database I made here. So it's double job and just made once, and it's useful for my chat, offline chat on my website, and it's useful for the form just after the subscription to my emailing solution. So that's very interesting. That's an example one of humanization of a task. So as I said, proactive offline chat. It's offline. As I said before, it's important to know that. And secondly, I've got something like 40 chat per day minimum. So I've got a report of all the chat she managed for me. For example, this day, I think it was a Saturday or something like that. Maybe it was a Saturday. Yes, it was Saturday. It's a low day in B2B. It was 20 chats. The question after the subscription of my mailing list is also said that. So I've got every day a reporting of all she did and what she couldn't do here. So that's very interesting for me. Example 2. Example 2 is a more growth hacking typical task that you do by a bot, by a script. It's a typical case of gathering data from a website and find a good solution on LinkedIn. My job is this task was very easy. In fact, as I said before, I work in B2B business, and I've seen somebody making an event with Evenium or Eventbrite or something like that, an online B2B event, very interesting for me because it was exactly the product I selling. So it was exactly what I want to say. It was people who was registering to this event. I add only their first name. I've got that position, but not their name. But as I won't be a part of this event, I won't be a speaker. I maybe participate to this trade show, to this event, but I couldn't talk to everybody one-to-one. So what I want to do was very simple. I've got here this list of all the participants. I add the first name, I've got the initial of a name, I've got the job position, I've got the company. So a regular growth hacker would do something very clear. They will begin to here make a script to take this name, take this position, take this company, and they would find them on LinkedIn. That's a good way. I wouldn't say it's a bad way, but the problem is that I wanted to have a good search, because the problem with the growth hacking thing with a script is that maybe when you type the name on LinkedIn or on Google, it's not exactly the same name. It's maybe a contact I already have. There is some double people. There are some people which are not the good ones. So I wouldn't like to have false information. I wouldn't want to give invitation to people that I already know. So as there is few people, only 300, so this time it's 100, but on the case I wanted to show you, it was 300 people. So I wanted to invite them on LinkedIn and telling him that I'm also interesting in the subject of AI or chatbots or something like that. Donc it was very simple. I asked my virtual assistant, very simple, go here, type here, for example, here, the name of the guy, and okay, Stefan B, it's not here with this guy, so if you just if you just type it on LinkedIn, on Google, it's not the right now, so you've got to find another one, for example here, and I've got exactly the right solution. It's not this one, it's this one. So I ask my virtual assistant to do exactly this job. Okay, when you go here, you type here, you've identified which is a good one, and you add it to it's already the first relation, but you add it to my network and you add a custom message to say, okay, I'm really fan of this thematic of the event, and I would like to invite you because I'm really passionate about this thing, and so on, so on, so on. So it was very simple. Invite people, search on LinkedIn, have a custom invitation, and not inviting existing customer, existing contact, and of course not the people of the trade show, because there is always the people from the trade show which are registering to the event. So if you send invitation to these people telling, oh, I'm passionate about that, they would say, wow, that's the guy we are inviting everybody today in the company, and they will show that, will see that I'm trying to hack their event. So what I did, it was very simple. It took me 10 minutes. I record the screen of what I did just before, searching the name, enter it in Google, and then having a custom invitation with just customizing the name of the people. So send her the URL with the 300 name. So it was very simple. Create a custom invite, as I said before, and the instruction on how to do it, and then my LinkedIn login and password. So she did it in something like 3 hours. I think it took her 2 hours or 3 hours. So for me it was something like I would say 70 euros. Maybe it took her more than 2 hours or 3 hours. So it cost me something like 70 euros. I had more than 100, so I think it was something like 200 new contacts, and while inside on new leads. So it was very interesting for me because it was few things, something like 10 minutes for me, no scripts, nothing to do, and it was really qualitative work. So very interesting for me. As I said before, it's very interesting when you have quality job like that. I will finish my presentation by a failure. I could be able to sell you and present you more failure, but I would like to present at least one failure of using humans for some task. For example, writing a good blog post. What I thought before was using a virtual assistant to create some content for a blog I manage. It's very simple. I've got a blog about personal development, which is devenirplusefficace.com. It's a blog that I don't have time to manage, but it's something that can generate leads for one of my business. So I thought, okay, great, I would like to hire SEO redactor to post quality blog posts on my blog. I would really emphasize on the fact that I wanted quality blog post. I don't want to have SEO blog post, because SEO blog post is not relevant for me, because I would like to share it on my network. I would like to share it on my newsletter. I would like to demonstrate that I've got a very good content and make people register to the website, people are buying the products, and so on, so on, so on. So I wanted to have really good quality product. So I paid something like 15 euros for per blog post, which is quite a high price for a blog post. And I give him some sources of very high quality English blog post about this subject, and say, okay, there is 4 free English blog posts. Take the most interesting ideas of this blog post and create a new blog post about that, which is limiting the job of copy duplicate, limiting the job of inventing blog post, and which is not stealing content, because it's taking some ideas in some blog post. Why it was not working? Because at the end it was a quite quick and dirty and not really value added job. The problem was the translator I used was not the best and was not really a fan of this personal development subject. So at the end, the translation I had was French good, but good French, was readable, but it was not perfect. It was not as good as I wanted to present on this blog, because it was not an SEO blog. So what I learned, I said, okay, you have to really choose the right writer. Right now, I didn't find the right one, but I know somebody else who has exactly the same blog as me, and who find an external redactor who write not perfect, but just good blog post for this subject. So choose the right writer if you want to externalize the writing of your blog post. And really important, not everybody is an expert in even in broad subject like personal development. So what I learned, it was very simple. Of course, you can delegate something very simple to a virtual assistant offshore, but for really expertise, when you have really value added, you have to do it, because it's your core business, it's your expertise, and you can't delegate to a virtual assistant, and of course not to a bot. So to finish my presentation, it's very simple. Yes, you can automate a lot of things. As I said before, I use software to automate lots of things on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, on something like that. But a human can be better in some case, when you have value added to add, for example, for support first line. I didn't mention here, but first line support can be answered by a FAQ, like I did before, for transcription of videos, for translation, for formatting web pages, or making some PDF or something like that. It's very interesting to have a human and not just a bot. For example, I used to make some translation using a tool like Google Translate on Google, and of course the tool to make some transcription with Google in Google Docs, but it's not as efficient as a virtual assistant, because the virtual assistant won't transcript everything from scratch. It will resume the thing and get only the good ideas, and it's not just a rough translation or transcription of a video. So your aim is to add human when it creates value and it's create strong relationships. It's very important. So identify where you can put human and where you have to put a bot. And if you have more information, do not hesitate to visit my blog, ConseilsMarketing.fr, or if you speak French, my book, The Growth Hacking. And if you speak English, I really big fan of the 4 work week from Tim Ferriss, which is very interesting, and which is one of my favorite book. I think Tim Ferriss, one of the first growth hacker style. He launched his book in 2008, which is something like 10 years ago. And at this time, he already talking about growth hacking without naming it, but it was very interesting. So it was talking about automate, about virtual assistant. It was talking about being efficient or something like that. And I really encourage you to read this book because I think it's one of the best book about growth hacking, even if it was not a growth hacking book at this time. So thank you for listening to this presentation. I hope you learned something interesting. So do not hesitate to put a comment or send me an email. It would be a pleasure to answer to you. And if you want, you can use my chat on my website. And of course, as you said before, and as you see before, you will have my virtual assistant who would answer to you on offline. And then if it's an interesting question, it will be me that will answer your question. Bye bye. Have a nice day.